Hello, my name is Sharnetta Clark Gordon. I'm one of the narrators for the Black Mooresville Untold Stories, Part 1. I hope you enjoyed Part 1 as we took you through the educational struggles and journey of the African Americans living in Mooresville. On Part 2, we're going to talk about the businessmen and women and the entertainers from Mooresville. We'll talk about Vance Neil, who was a Sunday school teacher, a business owner, a lender. Pike Ford Stewart, Joseph Wilson, Winnie and Glenn Hooper, and then Terry and Nars Graham. So hope you sit back and enjoy and relax and watch Part 2.
I got started in 1946 when I came out of service. My cousins was running the taxi. In fact, it was in the family from 1926 up to that time. My uncle owned it for about 7 or 10 years, and then his son-in-laws took over and they run it till 1946. I bought it from them, and I ran it from 1946 to 2003. My son's wife took over in 2003. And when I first started driving taxi in 1936, we only had 2 thoroughfare roads through Mooresville. That was 21 from Statesville to Charlotte and 150 from Salisbury to Lincoln. There was only 2 thoroughfare roads through Mooresville at that time. And I saw a lot of changes made, Ricky. There was no streets at city limits. Mostly all of them was dirt. Academy Street was from Wilson Avenue up to, from Academy over to 150. That wasn't no streets at that time. The streets from Bell Street run out to Iredale and back to Patterson Avenue. Wasn't just that little street in there. And from the hospital on Statesville Avenue, from the Center Street up to Church Street, you couldn't get from Church Street up to Main Street. There was no road there. And from Main Street to Statesville Avenue, it was. And down on the Mill Hill, mostly all those streets were dirt streets when I came to Mooresville.
Well, being a taxi driver, I'm sure you were familiar with all the streets and whether they were paved or covered, or which were good ones and which were bad ones.
Well, there was no streets hardly paved in from Wilson Avenue back down to the golf course. That was all mud at that time I come to Mooresville. And from Center Street over where the senior high school is, that was the end of Center Street. There was no through there on out to Iredale. That was farmland in that time.
Well, now, when you took over the business and bought it, at that time it became Terry's Taxi?
Yeah.
What was it called prior to that?
Prior to that, Stewart's Taxi.
Right, and where were you headquartered, or where did you operate from?
Where did I operate from?
Yeah.
That little building behind Charlie Mack's there. There was a little barber shop in that alley there where they use parking lot now.
Kind of across from the Tribune office?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where we started operating from.
And then sometime later than that you moved, didn't
you? Yeah, we moved I moved several times. I went down there on Amico, stayed there longer than anywhere else, I reckon. And then I got that place across the street there, what is on McClellan Avenue. Yeah. They had that where the barber shop is. That lady, they had to clean up that was all grown up. They had to clean it up. And the lady's husband was dead. She asked me to clean it up. And she said if I cleaned it up, that I could have that place behind there on McClellan. And I stayed there till he bought that, I reckon, in 1980s. And I was going to have to move from there. And they put telephones in the cars. The first telephone I had, we had them in the car. The horn would blow when we got a call.
So, Miss Glassby, Lacey Bell was your aunt, and Terry of Terry Taxi and 46 Diner was your father.
Yeah, and Terry's brother Norris, that was Aunt Lacey's first husband. That's how, we were connected like that too.
Okay.
And my mama was Lacey's sister.
Okay. How did that influence your upbringing? I know you said you didn't spend much time with him. Did you spend a lot of time with her?
Yeah, because she was always there with her mother. She lived with her mother. When she and Norris lived in Mooresville for a little while, and then they finally separated, and she came back home. So she was there with my grandmother to help raise me. So she was always there. And, well, her and Terry always got along good, just like brothers and sisters would. They never had any falling outs or anything. Because when if he wanted to come get me, she would let me go and all. I remember every Monday, Terry was, he loved boxing. Wrestling on TV. He'd come get me every Monday and we'd go to Charlotte to wrestling. Every Monday he'd bring me back home so I could go to school the next day. But that was something, he always did that too on Monday. Every Monday we went to Charlotte to the wrestling. He was crazy about those wrestlers. And we enjoyed it. Me and his Shirley, his daughter, stepdaughter, and son, we all got along just like sisters and brothers. And they always said, Miss Ann would always say, it's no step nothing, it's sisters and brothers, no step nothing. So we always felt like that, and we were always close like that.
My name Donald R. Gillespie. My age is August the 15th, 1936. And let's see, I was born and raised in the country, in the outskirts of Mooresville. And I very seldom got to go to Mooresville when I was younger because we were on the farm. But when we used to go to Mooresville, we go shopping and do stuff like that. But when I grew up a bit older, then I started learning more about the town and people in there. This was before my marriage. And I remember when I was in school and I wanted a job. And I looked around, looked like everybody getting a job but me. So I went down to used to be an that house right there on West McClellan and Main Street. This old time house. What do you call that house? I remember go and come on stuff like that now. It got old. But anyway, they put serve food and they had blacks had to go in and you could blow the horn and they'd come out and wait on it. That kind of deal. Right there where the Whataburger was. No, consul's on the other end. Consul's out on North Main. No, this building that tore it down right to where Whataburger lives.
Hmm.
And we and the blacks had to eat in the back. If you got to go in at all, you had to go in the back where the kitchen was. But anyway, I went there after a job, and I didn't get the job there. So I went to Mid-State Mills in Mount Ellen and got a job, and I come back to Mooresville in 1960. Cascade Recap, and that was a car place up there on the one. She had just moved from out on Cascade. And I worked there till 66, but I was up and downtown then. And well, at that time I'd gotten married. I got married in 61 to Juanita, Tiny, they call her. And then from then on, that's when I really met her father. I met him before then, but I really learned him a lot better because when I worked there and I learned about taxes and stuff like that, where your taxes were running and everything. Then I moved to Maiden. Not moved to Maiden, but our job went to Maiden. Then went to Hickory. And I come back to Mooresville in 74. That's when I come back and went into that garage out there. Reverend McKenzie, he belonged to that presbytery. So he got me that station there with Knox used to. And I was in there for 25 years. I started in there, started renting, and then stayed long enough to buy it. And everything was worked out pretty good. And had plenty. Terry was all around. Taxes was around on the other side. They had a stand over there on the same side, on the opposite street. And Norris was one of his drivers. His brother, but that was one of his drivers too. And it's hard to think about what all was going on. I served all these cars, things running in, so I learned a lot from him about him hanging around there to go use their station for a hangout, when they went out running, doing different jobs.
Tell us something about you ran a taxi cab service in Mooresville. What were some of the other industries or businesses that were run by from the black community?
Well, there was a little restaurant and a barber shop there on the corner of Cheryl Street and McClellan. There was a barber shop and a
That part of town was sometimes referred to as West End?
West End, yeah.
Okay.
And I had a little cafe run about 10 years right below there, right across from the Baptist church there on McClellan. School children used to come across there and get hot dogs at lunchtime.
What was the name of that?
That school?
No, the name of the little restaurant.
The restaurant, 46 Diamond. 46 Diamond, that was all over Mooresville.
His name was Vance Neil. I don't know what made him a figure in Mooresville. I guess Vance Neil was a very strange person. He told you just like it was. He didn't care if you were white or black or whatever. He had as many white friends as he had black. He was the owner of that baseball team. He organized it, and he had a lot of other people that worked with him. One of the guys I remember very older, his age group was Leon Pfeiffer, was one of the ones that worked well with him with the baseball team. What my father would do is he would go around and approach the parents of the young boys in Mooresville in the city and ask if their son could join his baseball team. And if they said yes, then he said, well, I will come pick them up and I will take them, to the games and all this. And he had his own baseball field. Wow. Right off of Cornelius Road. And that field was where they played when the teams came and played the Mooresville Demon Tigers, which was the name of the team. And it was like maybe like a little park ground or something, because they built a little brick shed that we were under in case it rained, and we sold hot dogs, and fish was the main thing. People came from all over to get the fish sandwiches, and that was white and black. White people came to get the fish sandwich. They would always say, Vance, are y'all gonna have fish over there? And they would come. He said, yeah, we're gonna have fish, and they would come. So it was fish, hot dogs, that was it. No, nothing big. Coleslaw. Oh yes, I remember I had to grate that cabbage every Saturday morning for those games, and the great big pan coleslaw to make. So they had to go on the hot dogs, and they had cold drinks, and of course they had beer. Of course they had liquor by the shots, because it was Vance Neil's event, and you didn't have too many things without a little alcohol. That was a highlight, I think, for most young people in Mooresville, was to be part of that baseball team and to play on that team, because Vance was going to take care of them, and the mothers knew that, and the fathers knew that, and he was going to be responsible for them. He bought their uniforms, and we and my mama had to wash them every week. They had to come bring these uniforms in. We had to wash these uniforms, be sure they had clean uniform. His thing was, his boys had to look good. He took them to get their shoes, their cleats, all of that. And then he started to playing teams in the park, in the Statesville Park and in the Mooresville Park. So they would have games. And in addition to that, my father would add a little spice to it. He had a beauty show, and he would have the black girls in their swimsuits and all marching around. And of course, my mama was one of the judges, and they picked people to be judges, and they would let these girls would be in the, I don't know, they would just, it was something to give the kids in Mooresville something to do and something to look forward to. I'll never forget, maybe I was about 15 or 16, and I wanted to be in the beauty contest. And my father said, well, no, you can't be in the beauty contest. And I said, what do you mean I can't be in it? Why can't I be in it? Because I thought, I never asked him until I was 16. And he said, because you are my daughter, and that's not right. It's my contest. That you don't have your own child in your contest. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. And so I was kind of hurt by that, but I never got to be in the beauty contest. That was a disappointing thing. But anyway, back to the baseball games. Now, my father would have the teams, and they would go, and he always carried his own scorekeepers and his own people that, to take care of little things with the players. Okay. If he didn't have a scorekeeper, guess who became the scorekeeper? I did. I had to be the scorekeeper. Now, can you imagine, now 14, 15 years old, I'm down in the dugout with all these men, and every team that he played, some of them were old men. They weren't all young. He had probably the youngest baseball team that was around. But anyway, I was the scorekeeper, and with all these old men, and I'm up there in the dugout with all these old people, and I have to keep the scores and all of this. It was a lot of it, but as I think back on, I'm able to form deep relationships with men because I was exposed to them, others more so than women. I heard their talks. I know what they're saying. I heard how they thought about women and different things. So my opinion of men changed because I knew them, and I was able to have relationships with a lot of men, and understand and talk to them about things, and that has followed me throughout my life. I don't know if it's benefited me, but it has followed me. But anyway, the baseball team was a highlight, not just for my father, but for the city, and it made the young people feel that they had something to do. And if they had any problems, any issues, they called my daddy and told him, and he would talk to their mothers about, you know, what they were going through, the issues and things that they have. So he really served his community very, very well. And he was recognized by Mooresville. Um, but he refused to go and be recognized. But they did have the mayor of Mooresville. They had a recognition day, and Vance was one of the people that was recognized. But he refused to go, and they had called us, and we all came to go with him. But so Leon Pfeiffer, his dear friend, picked up the award for him for that.
Austin Jatan, a Broadway actor, a business owner in New York City, grew up right here from Mooresville. He encourages everyone to follow your dreams, no matter how big or small. It doesn't matter where you come from, you can do it. I introduce to you Austin Jatan.
I'm about 40 minutes west of Albany, a little town called Sharon Springs, and I'm also very close to Cooperstown, the Baseball Hall of Fame. And it's right on Route 20, and Route 20 will take you all the way to California. While I was in Cats, a friend of mine was also in the show, and had left the show, so I decided to come here and visit. And the town was very dilapidated as far as a lot of the old structures that they wanted to revitalize the town. And the best way of doing that was to bring in new blood. And so they convinced me through a realtor to buy some property here. At the time, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about getting back to New York and just continuing my career. And I told my mother about it. She goes, "No, you should really think about buying property. You're in theater, and theater shows don't last a very long time. And you're making a little bit of money now, so invest that money in buying property." I always listened to my mother, so I did. And watched the movie called Au Chocolat. That's the one with Johnny Depp and Joan Binoche. Johnny Depp is sort of like a vagabond. Joan Binoche comes into town, and she opens up this chocolate shop in this small little town, and this town was in need of something like that, and it just absolutely grew. So I said to a couple of locals here, I went, "That's what this town needs, is a chocolate shop. So one day I'm going to open one." And so I talked about it for years and years and years and years as I was coming back and forth from New York, because I was still performing at the time. And so one time at Christmas, a friend came up and gave me a book on chocolates. He says, "You know, you keep talking about it, you should really do it and think about it. You know, there in this town, I am basically the only Black person, quote, in Sharon Springs. So I'm the only Black owned business here. So that says a lot about the community. They're trying to integrate it, you know, and because it's more of like a Jewish community, but we want to expand it more. So I took a class online, and which they accepted 25 students from all over the world. It was an open forum. I was living in my apartment in New York. I was doing catering gigs in New York to survive. I wasn't doing a show at the time. So I would come home from catering gigs. I would do my lesson, of which you had to do this, and then you would email it in, and then they would test it out by making it themselves and grade you that way. I had to do a lot of research. So once I got that under my belt, I started taking samples to the different catering companies in New York City that clients were very wealthy and knew a lot about chocolates and truffles, just to get a feel for if I was doing something right, and I wanted feedback. And they liked it. And I started doing festivals here in town here and all over. And then my friends own a hotel here, and they said, "Listen, why don't you come here and be our general manager? This way you can live in your home and then work for us." And I thought, I don't know if I want to work for my friends, and I don't know if I want to leave New York City. So I kept my apartment, have a roommate there. So therefore, That roommate pays the rent. Decided, well, I'll come here and live in my house full time and go down to the city every now and again. And while working there, they owned the building across the street, and that space became available. And they said, listen, why don't you put your chocolate shop in there? We'll give you a good rate. So I put the shop in first as a pop-up shop. It did really well. And then then I opened it, and then I started renting the shop behind, which I'm building a certified kitchen where I make all of my product. And now it's beginning. I've been there for 2 years, and people are beginning to know about me. They call me the singing chocolatier. So that's my gimmick. In New York, when you get into a show, there's an audition process, and it's a very arduous process. There's 3 days of a call, and there could be thousands of people that come in, and they want you to sing 16 bars of your best. So you go in and you sing, and it's like, what can they see and with 16 bars? You go and you do it anyway, and then you leave. They know sort of what they're looking for and what they're hearing, so they make notes, and then they will ask you to come back, and they keep trickling it down that way and that way and that way. Finally, I had maybe 3 or 4 different auditions, callbacks, as they say. Callback is like, okay, they like you, they want to see a little bit more, they want to see what your stamina is. So my final callback, they brought me to the theater, and they had all of the producers sitting there, and they said that we want you to sing this song, and we want you to sing it in 3 different keys. And this way they could test to see what my ability was. So I did it. They would give me notes, and then I would do it again. And you're basically worn out by the time you leave there. And I left. They when I'd gone to the audition, Deuteronomy is usually a person who is much taller than I am and has much more girth. And I was smaller than what I am now, but I have broad shoulders, so they could pad me, and I have a pretty big voice. So as I listened to other people go in, I knew that I could sing much louder than they could. So they called me back, and they didn't call them back. And then eventually they called and told me that I had the show, and that sort of started my career. I did that for 7 years, 2 different companies of that. I left that, and I did Showboat in London. I worked with the actress Cloris Leachman, and that, also the actor Ned Beatty, and also what's his name? He was a Disney guy, Dean Jones, also came in. So and then went to London with Showboat as well. And then after that, I did Starlight Express, the one on roller skates, and the Andrew Lloyd Webber show, which is about a train. And then after that, came back here. So my career has been long and sort of here and there, but it's been great.
Ronica Bowers, one of the hardest working women in quartet singing, keeping the legacy going of her father, Robert Bowers, as she travels around the world singing Lord is in Your Hands. I introduce to you Ronica Bowers.
It's Robert Bowers. He is one of, I call him a genius. If I'm being modest, I'm being modest. He's one of those that he tilled the soil. He tilled it, and he got it smooth. He was a hard worker. He was dedicated. He did not take no for an answer. He was, again, I say he was a genius. And those things that he had, he instilled in us. So we're trying to, he passed the torch down, and we're trying to keep it going.
Okay. Passing that torch, what are you referring to? What's the torch he passed?
A businessman. He was a musician. He was a singer. And when I say pass the torch, I am now a business owners. we went on with the group, Ronica and the Blazing Stars. So when I say pass the torch, he taught us, and now we are doing what he taught us to do.
Right. What type of businesses do you venture in?
I own 3 daycare centers. I have an entertainment company. What else do I do? I think I'm a jack of all trades. What else I do, Tony? I believe that's all.
Yeah. Okay. So you're Ronica and the Blazing Stars. So you've traveled how many places or?
Oh my goodness, I couldn't start. We've been to Las Vegas, we've been to Texas, we've been all over North Carolina. We've been South Carolina, North Carolina, Louisiana, we've been Mississippi. You name it, we probably done been there. The only place we haven't been is overseas, but guess what? It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
All right. So the name of your group is Ronica and the Blazing Stars. What legacy do you want to leave behind to share about Ronica and the Blazing Stars?
Well, first of all, you got to understand where Ronica and the Blazing Stars came from. Again, you got to go back to home, and home was Robert Bowers. Again, this is something that he taught, speaking of me, he taught me to do. So I want people to understand, we sing quartet. So the legacy I want to leave with people is to let the ladies know they can sing quartet music just like men can sing quartet music.
Quartet music. And what is different about the quartet music than a choir?
Well, you're not going to have as many people. You're going to have a different sound. To it. I think it's more of a more hand clapping, foot stomping, hip hopping, hip clapping type of music. It's full of, you get it. It's hard to explain. It's just soulful. It's soulful. Not saying that other music is not soulful, but quartet music is just old time, good, hallelujah, stomping music.
I'm Antonio Bowers. Some people call me Tony Lilo. That's the stage name. My age is 36 by the grace of God. And I'm also from Cotter Creek, born and raised down here on the Highway 3 side of town.
All right. So with you growing up in Mooresville, things were a little different. Is there any particular person or influence you in your career?
Yeah, it's a couple for me. I was super sports active, as mom was too. I don't know why you didn't talk about that. You played softball and everything in Mooresville, right? Well, that's true. But Coach Mooney was a big influence on me. He really was my JV basketball coach, as well as my varsity basketball coach. We had a pretty successful basketball team. But then also Coach Brett. Coach Brett was the beginning, Napoleon Lowry. He's been an influence to so many of the people in my generation, not only just from a sports perspective, but just as a young Black man perspective. Just like understanding that, listen, you know, you guys got talent, but it's a lot more than that. You got to make sure you're hitting those books too. Now, I ain't necessarily hit them too well, but you know, he at least tried. And Coach Slack too. Coach Slack was another one that that really, those two, the Mooresville Bulls, they instilled a lot of just Black man in the world, not just Mooresville, but definitely Mooresville. So shouts out to those three individuals: Coach Mooney, Coach Slack, Coach Brett first, Coach Slack, Coach Mooney, for sure.
Okay. I know that you're talented in sports and you're talented in your music. Did you get that do you think you got that from your grandfather and your mom, or?
Yes, ma'am, for sure. Just sitting around watching them do it, and it was just automatically instilled in me. It started with my grandfather. Can't forget my uncle as well, my Uncle Roger. Those were the two that really just showed me what it is to do music. And then now, you know, and from then being able to watch mom on the front of the stage, like behind her, that really showed me how to do it from a like leadership position on the floor. So I was just really blessed to be able to just God just put me in his family. So I don't take it for granted. Like I really got exposed to a lot of stuff. So I appreciate it.
All right. So now you're on your own doing with your career. Can you tell us a little bit about your career and what you do?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm a singer, guitarist. I'm also still playing drums with my mom. That will never stop. Family first for me. I'm born in June, so family is super important to me. But then also, once home is taken care of, I go off and do my own ventures with a group called The Tones. We used to be called the Hamiltones, as we sung background for Mr. Anthony Hamilton. And then when we made our personal transition to become more in the forefront, then we just remove Hamill to the Tones, just to kind of establish our own identity. And we do the same thing that I've been growing up doing, travel around the world. The only difference is we don't necessarily sing gospel, but the influence is there because both of the other guys grew up just like I did in a gospel connected either household. Yeah, because Vito's dad is a preacher, and then Tui's dad is a musical director in gospel. So we all came from the same influence and we all have spirituality deep inside of our hearts. So even though we're out there singing secular style music, it's still going to have that gospel influence because once it's in you, you can't get it out. You can't.
It's true. Now, is there a way that you have paid it back to anyone in Mooresville or pay it forward for anyone? What connection to
Yeah,
Mooresville that you're doing now?
take Mooresville with me where I go. I'm not at mama's space right now, so I don't have a whole bunch of finances to pay anything back. I'm just real. But what I do is I take Mooresville with me, and I let the world know when they ask me where I'm from. I'm from Mooresville. You know, there may be some times where I say Charlotte, North Carolina is easier to identify, and then I say by way of a small city called Mooresville, North Carolina, for those that don't know. Not only that, but I'm just proud to be able to say I'm from Mooresville. The Mooresville Blue Devils is deep within inside of me, and I'm still connected to everybody here. I hear a lot of people say it's not good when you go off and do all these things, but you can't come back home. I can still go to Eastern Heights. I can still go, you know what I mean, and still see my guys that I went to school with, and it's still a mutual respect from me to them and from them to me. So I can come home, you know, and so yeah, that to me, just being able to come home and my guys still look at me as the same way I look at myself, which is just Tony Bowers. To me, that's paying it forward more than any money can do. You know what I'm saying? Just being able to have that connection, that Mooresville connection.
Travina Johnson, an actress, a singer, a business owner. She has two bands, a tribute to Mary J. Blige, which she travels around the world singing and doing what she enjoys most. Travina grew up here in Mooresville singing. I introduce to you today Travina Johnson, Trey J. Okay, can you tell us how Mooresville has contributed to your success in your career now?
Well, I started in Mooresville, and you have to have somewhere to start before you continue to do things. But I've always had a dream to be an entertainer. Ever since I was young, I just thought I was going to do something in the entertainment field, and I have.
Are there any, I know you said the Las Amigas, has there been any particular person that, contribute to your success?
My Aunt Ann, she used to make me sing everywhere. And if she had to be somewhere, I had to go to. So yes, I guess that's what gave me a little confidence because I'm still shy, but I used to be shy and didn't really want to sing in front of people, but she made me sing.
How was your education here in the Mooresville system?
It was fine. No, it was good. It was education. I mean, I sang in chorus. I participated in a lot. Yeah, I played basketball. I was a cheerleader. I think I was the only black cheerleader at that time. I enjoyed Mooresville. I left before I graduated. Then I came back. But yeah.
Were there any teachers or anyone that influenced you or encouraged you besides your Aunt Ann?
Oh yeah, Miss Brady from when I went to Woods, and Miss Lynch when I went to the junior high school. Mr. Edelman. It was like everybody was just so encouraging at that time. You know, at that time everybody was always encouraging us as the students to do better and shoot for our dreams, and and I'm glad they did.
With family, do you have other family members that are working with you now, or are you reaching out to them and leaving a legacy?
My children. My daughter is actually my DJ, so she travels with the bands, and she is also building it for herself. So sometimes it's hard for me to even get her. So yes, but my daughter definitely is a part of our team.
What is her name? And
her name is DJ Morning Glory, and she's really good, and she's for hire.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to share with about your meeting any of the famous people that you've come in contact with through your tributes or with your band traveling?
Yes, the best meeting I can say is that I met Mary J. Blige actually 2 weeks ago. And that was the highlight of, when you're attributing someone, it's always great to be able to see them in person or have a conversation with them. And that was like, wow. And I'm actually going to see her again at the end of the month. Hopefully to meet her and talk a little more than I did previously.
So you were able to control that anxiety, that
I thought
stardom.
I was sweating on the inside. I was good. I was like, oh my goodness. And it was so funny because everyone was looking at me, taking pictures with me before the show started. And then when I went to the meet and greet, everybody was inside the meet and greet walking by me like trying to take pictures with their phone. It was so funny. I tried not to laugh, but they were like, look, they over there taking pictures. So stuff like that is funny. But yeah, I'm excited.
Is there any thing that you feel the world needs to know about Travina and her group and where their goals and plans are?
Well, with the Trey King Band, which is our soul school band, we do soul old school music. We just want you to know that we do things and we perform because we love what we do. And we want you to love what we do and feel good about yourself while we're doing what we do for you.
What are your goals for the band?
Well, my ultimate goal for the Just Fine tribute band is to be in Vegas. That is the ultimate goal. And I kind of think I'm going to be there sooner than later. Yes. With the Trey King Band, we just want to be able to do things that are local because it keeps us, I don't want to say humble, but it keeps us connected. With the Just Fine tribute band, it's hard to kind of like be connected because there's so much going on. But when we're doing the Trey King Band, we get to roll around. I get to talk to people. I get to touch people. I get to sing requests. And yeah.
My dad was born and raised here in Iredell County. He was born on what they call Mayhew Town, which is out off of Brawley School Road, off of McKenzie Road, and the home place still sits there. So that's where he was born, and my father was one of 6 brothers, and my father was the last one. He used to pick cotton back in the day, or he'd go work people's farms. There was something needed done, there was something to be done. My father's education, I think my father didn't get past maybe 5th or 6th grade, because back in those days, work took precedence over going an education. Him being a male, a young boy, of course, he immediately went to work. I do know he picked cotton. There are a lot of odd and end jobs from there, but he started as a young boy working down the street at McKnight's Pontiac. Well, at first he went, when he was 17, he went to Greensboro. About 16, he went to Greensboro and worked a while. He was up in Greensboro for about 2-3 years. But then he came back, and then I guess him and my mother got together sometime between then. And they be married. And then once they were married, he started working down at the the Pontiac and McKnight's Pontiac and Buick. And what's real interesting about that story is that how he got his start down there was always a gentleman down there that lived out in Mayhew Town. My dad went and worked odds and end jobs with him, so eventually his name was Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Bus Mayhew was his name, is what he always called him. And he kind of like told my daddy, come on up, if you can do nothing but just come up and wash cars, you can do that. So that's what he started off at McKnight, Pontiac, and Buick, is washing cars. So he started there washing cars, and he started doing different little odds and end jobs and jobs for the dealership. Then eventually, and what led, I guess he just, that service station was sitting there right beside the dealership for years. So when it closed down, he just decided, well, maybe that's something I can do. And he decided to open up the Pike's Pure Oil, and that's where his gas station business started from there. My father's side of the family, they love to give people names with initials, but I would say Uncle TD. Uncle TD and my dad was extremely close, and Uncle TD was the one that would come out to the Pure Oil station and sit with my dad, and and when the record business started, he was here and everything. But I think Uncle TD, we used to call him Uncle TD. He made Uncle TD Stewart. He was a big influence on my dad, and I know he was, and I'll tell you some of the another person that was a big influence on him is Mr. Glenn Hooper. That was Miss Winnie Hooper's husband. She's the one that Miss Winnie Hooper is Winnie Hooper Center is named after her. Another influence of his was Mr. Joe Byers, who was a real good friend for him. Joseph Byers, who owned the TV service, that was a real good close friend of him. Another one I would say even would be my Uncle Obie Stevenson. Obie Stevenson was the one that opened the first service station here in Mooresville, and that's my uncle because he was married to my Aunt Shirley Stevenson. So he was the first Black business owner in Mooresville, was Obie Stevenson, to open the service station. And so he was one, but Uncle Obie, as his service station, as he grew out, he started going into more of the dump truck drive and all that. So eventually he sold his service and he just got out of the service station business forever. But when my father first moved here to this property he was renting. He was renting from the Harding family. And it was real interesting. And he'd always told Mr. Harding that if he ever decided he was going to sell this property, he would like to be the first one that would be able to buy it. So it was real interesting. And then Mr. Harding died. I guess he passed that on to his wife, and they used to come here and buy gas. And what made my daddy's business really good was he was a full service station. You had a lot of people that did not like pumping their own gas. And when he first opened here, it's not just that he sold gas. He also did oil changes, sold tires, sold batteries, tire repair. He did it all. And something else he did is he created a concession business, which consisted of the Snowball, cotton candy apple business, which he gave jobs to anybody that wanted to work. Anybody, whether you was young, old, mid-age, if you was down on your luck, you needed a job, my dad would give you a chance. So that's where all that, all that came in, where he would be willing to work anybody that wanted to work. If you wanted to work, and a lot of people, they would fall on hard times. They would come here, hey, Pipe, I need to work. I appreciate you giving me, and some of them would stay. A lot of people came through here, but he believed in it. If my dad had, he wouldn't sit back. He might fuss at you and tell you what you ought to be doing and what you shouldn't. You shouldn't have done this or that. But he would never say, I'm not going to do it. If he saw that you was in need, he would give it. I can remember when I was 9 years old, when I was the first one to start working for my father. And I was 9 years old, and that's, you talk about back in 1968. My father was located about 2 blocks down the street, which is now, used to be Pike's Pure Oil. But the McKnight, Pontiac, and Buick decided to buy that property. So as a result, my father moved up here, I think in 1972 was when he moved to this location. And what was really interesting about this service station, it was called Pike's Gulf. And it was, it started off as Pike's Pure Oil. It was just a white solid building with blue trim and didn't have the roof on top, just a square building. And he wasn't here long, about 4, 5, 6 months, when Gulf came in. He started selling Gulf gas. And as a result, with Gulf taking over, they remodeled the whole building, transitioned it, and then it became Pike's Gulf. And pretty much after Gulf went out, my dad sold Citgo gas, and then he went to selling Citgo gas for a while, or what came in after that, but I do know that he eventually found his niche in the market. The niche in the market where he was successful all the way up until he passed 2 years ago was he started selling non-ethanol gas. That's gas without the ethanol in it, which works really well for small engines, motorcycles, lawnmowers, and of course a lot of your antique cars. So he found a niche in the market, and that was how he was survived, by selling non-ethanol gas. And at that time, my sister Rhonda, who was unable to be here, she worked for my dad for almost 30 years. But him and her was working here. And of course, my dad had a tow service too. And he was the first tow service in the city of Mooresville. Not just only black doing it, but he was the first to start the first towing business here. I'm not sure about the year, but he was the first. And at one time, he had a total of 4 records, but when he passed, he was only down to 2. So he was pretty much now selling. Right when he passed, he worked all the way up until 26 days before he passed. He left his service station and got in a car with his granddaughter and went to the hospital. That was 26 days before he died. So he's a working man all his life. And two mottos that my father always told us. Number one, if you're going to ever have anything, you're going to have to work for it. And number 2, you better watch your money or somebody else will. So those were some of the famous words that he always said. He had a lot of wisdom. When we grew up, I never thought about racism and segregation. Even though all this stuff was going on all around us, it was never a problem because I looked at my dad. My dad worked. He was a businessman, and he would always say 95% of my business is white. And the one thing one of the greatest lessons my daddy always taught me was, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, please, thank you. He said that will carry you a long way. And my daddy taught me very early to speak up, speak to people. There's never any harm in saying, hello, how you doing, to anybody. He said, I don't care who it is, always speak to people. So he had a regimen he used to teach me. He said, let me tell you something, baby. When you got in them people's car, you say, hello, ma'am, hello, sir, how are you doing today, and how can I help you? That was pretty much the way he taught me to do that. So I always do that, and they tell me what they want, pump the gas, and of course, once they pump the gas, you always say thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And please come back and see us. And that's real funny now, because right now I work for the I'm retired. I'm retired from a law enforcement career, and I work part-time for the Mecklenburg County ABC store. I'm just a cashier, but I had a manager ask me, "Why do you always tell people to come back? You know they're coming back." I said, "It's just a habit that I learned from a child. My father always said, tell people to come back. Like, thank you. Thank you, come back and see us." And that was something that stuck with me. And so that's kind of like a memory thing for me. Whenever I tell the customers ABC, thank you, please come back.
Well, we're come to the end. And through this journey, you've learned of the business people in the Mooresville area. You've learned of the educational struggle in the Mooresville area. And so with the generations to come, there's going to be more businesses. There's going to be more dreams to come true. And it all starts with a seed that hopefully this documentary has planted in some young person, that they may see this and know they too can be successful. They too can have a business. They too can go out and even create a documentary. So just wanted to say, whatever it is that you want to do, believe in yourself. Take in the resources in your environment and just believe that you can do it. You can be the mayor. You can be the president. Whatever it is that you want to do.
If you hear the nays, don't believe them, and don't even nay yourself, just keep going and keep going. you'll get knocked down, you'll get stronger every time you go. Persevere. You know, that's what the name of the game is. Entertainment is very, very difficult. Some will get it right off the bat, some will not. But you have to prove to yourself and prove to them that you are worthy to hire. So don't ever give up. That would be my most important thing. Don't give up.
I love learning about history. I love learning about where people came from, how they grew up. I love learning about birth to death for some reason. Yeah, I love history.
When you learn about people from Mooresville, how does that make you feel?
That makes me feel great. I get to know about more people who lived here before me, who walked on these grounds before me. Yeah, it makes me feel very good. When I was at a Martin Luther King breakfast, when I was people told me that I would be like the next mayor because the person like one of the assistants of mayor like when that guy quit, I could be the mayor. And when I was at my grandma's house once, my grandma and grandpa's house once, they were reading the newspaper, and my grandma came up to me and told me that one of the people aren't running for mayor today, and me and my grandma said because they're scared of me. So I might be a mayor or president before some of that, but I don't know. I don't know how my future is gonna be. But if I just try, I can do it.